my name's Chris Harrison. Used to be Chris Howe, out here at the fair all these years. It's my 46th fair. Originally from Southern California, came up here when I was 18. I went to LSCC and then the U of O, graduated from U of O. 69 was my first fair. It was here on this site. And my mom came, my dad came, but I came by myself, and I think I snuck in. And there wasn't hardly any booths here, of course, and such, and I wasn't with my parents, and I think I was with somebody else. But so it was fun and such, so I decided to come back, and I had to work. I don't remember when Phoenix Rising started, but my mom named it. It was Boy Scouts had started, were allowed to come on the fairgrounds, and had built a fire and burnt down the booth, which is why my mom named it Phoenix Rising. So my mom was here at the very beginning, helping to start the fair. So that was the early 70s, but I was already here too, and well, I was friends with a woman at U of O that I had classes with, Judy Bergstrom, and her husband was president of the Free Soul Motorcycle Club. So I was asked to help that summer here at the fair, selling wine, a wine booth there. Now, this was also the last year that we had a beer garden. This wasn't sanctioned by Cindy, the Wootons. So we had set up the wine booth, and it was very cheap wine. And Cindy comes and says, "You can't have this." And the guys go, "Yeah, but it's a fundraiser. This is nonprofit." And she goes, "You can't have a wine booth at the fair. It's all handmade stuff. You can't do that." They go, "Well, yeah, but you got the beer garden, why can't we have a wine booth? And it's a fundraiser, and one of our guys is in jail, and we got to get him out. He didn't do what they thought he did." And she goes, "You still can't have it." And they go, "Yeah, but we've already got it set up, and we already bought the wine." And so she had to give in. She said, "This year only can you have this?" And they said, "Great, okay." So they started selling the wine, and they had to go get more wine because all the wine was getting sold, especially the MD 2020, and kids really liked the wine. So here us young girls were selling this wine. I was 21 maybe. No, I'm not quite. And yeah, I had to have been 21. Maybe. And so they went and got more of the wine from more of the stores, and these cases of wine kept coming in and kept selling them. 3 days of selling wine, and they got enough money to bail the guy out. It was great. And so that was that experience, at which point I got together with my future husband, Henry, and I continued to work after that at Phoenix Rising. We were making food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a lot of enchiladas, breakfast, and serving main camp there at the very beginning. For several years we did that. At which point, after that, Henry and I were asked to help put together the water crew to service getting potable water into the fair with big semi-trucks and tankers to drive through the fair twice a day, before the fair opened and after it closed at night, through the 8, from the back of the fair to the front. We started with tankers that were like 250,000, a lot, to 3,000, 250 to 3, and then for 3,000, and eventually 4,500 gallons tankers that went through the fair. And this was to fill up every single food booth with their water, and water barrels that were placed strategically throughout the fair for drinking water. So we had to keep everything sanitary. We rented both tankers from Day Trucking, milk tankers, and then of course we rented the tractors to pull them, the semi. Full crew. We had to have 8-9 people surrounding the trucks, tankers at all times for safety, and of course then volunteer drivers that had to have seals to drive liquid. That was interesting to be able to find volunteer drivers with those kind of credentials. Wonderful drivers, great crew. Had to be so safe, especially on a Friday night or a Saturday night when everybody was really partying. It was dark and these things were moving through the fair, and you get a half a tank of water and it sloshes around and will kick that truck into next Tuesday. It was so scary. And yet, through the 10 years that we took those trucks through the fair, we never had one accident. Not one person was ever hurt. We had a very good reputation. And the late 70s and 80s, you think about those years, they were pretty intense. We did a pretty good job. Well, there was a lot of drugs happening. A lot of people were partying really, really heavily. Sometimes it was really raining, and so the slip and slide on the paths was something. So early morning before it opened, it wasn't as big a deal, but late at night, after it closed at night, and with the sweeping all the public out and then filling everybody up afterwards. Sometimes we had dry years and it took forever to fill all the booths, and so we didn't get off shift sometimes till midnight, 7 o'clock to midnight. There was one time that in the morning that was very interesting. Everybody was dry and we were filling up. One of the tankers coming down East 13th, it didn't get down to where Phoenix and Odyssey is until the fair opened at 11. And so the fair was opening and we had a big, huge semi there. What to do? Because at that time, that was the only entrance into the fair. So people were coming in, and the internal security there wasn't really much. Traffic didn't come inside. What do you do? We have this big, huge truck and all the public. So Reese comes down from Odyssey, and she and I decide to do a dance in front of the truck, and we dance and we say to the whole public, why don't you go into another direction instead of going left down East 13th? Why don't you go down to the right and go into the fair in this other direction? And as they do that, we can get the truck out. And we danced and we sang and we moved an entire population of the public as they were coming in, and moved them around, just the two of us. Because we couldn't, nobody else, no other staff, the security couldn't do it. They didn't know what to do. With a big, huge truck, they looked at that and went, what? And we were able then to move the truck out and get it safely out as the public was coming in. And that was just one of the instances. There's another real famous one that my son still talks about. We raised our children working on the water crew. It had been raining. It wasn't raining then, and the path was narrower with more of a side curves were, oh goodness, almost 2 feet on either side, and at least where this happened. And we had been filling a food booth, and we're just started moving the truck, and it was about half full at that time. So the driver was slowly starting, but it was jerking a little bit. Well, this kid on this bicycle, people didn't pay attention. They didn't pay attention to the truck. They would walk in front of it, walk around it. They didn't pay attention at all. This kid on this bicycle comes and slips on that mud right underneath the wheels. Henry grabbed the kid and the bicycle and pulled him right back out just as fast as he slid underneath there. And with just did it. And saved that kid in just a blink of the eye. With all that mud and everything. It was just one of those things we won't never forget. The driver never saw, couldn't have seen. There was no way. That's why we had at least 8 people around those trucks all the time. Stone sober too. It was darn. We were pretty severe with our crew. But there was delight in a lot of ways. I was able to get the first contract with the city of Eugene for the drinking water, for the water, and which was easy at that time. They figured out where to have an outlet hydrant with a turnaround so the trucks didn't ever have to back up. Out on Terry Street, which we've used up until just recently, I think. Just in the last few years. We've used it all these years. We drove those trucks through the fair twice a day, morning and evening, until we put in the underground system. And then handed over to John Anthony, who built the original carts, hose carts, and took over as coordinator, and we got to retire. So that was that. So after all these years of driving the trucks through and being unsafe, we decided it was really important to put in underground water system. So the fair asked the two head coordinators of construction to plan and design putting in an underground system. Well, and one of them was an excellent designer. He was very good at it. Well, so this went on for a little while. They asked one of our water guys for some opinion, some advice at the beginning, but then they decided they could go from there, and so there's no more meetings, and Henry and I weren't asked to be involved, which was very interesting. So then they said that they wanted to be paid for the work. Well, the fair usually doesn't pay their volunteers for the work that gets done. So there was quite a disagreement started to happen. So then they wanted to cut back on the plan of the system as far as how much they were going to put in. Then they said, well, instead of a potable water, drinking water, and a fire system that we wanted, including communication, they just wanted to put an irrigation system in. Well, that wasn't what we had asked for. We especially wanted a potable water underground system. That's why we wanted to get the trucks out. And the fire coordinator definitely wanted access for that for fire. It's terribly important. So there was a huge argument, and a lot of money had been wasted, thousands of dollars. So the fair decided to deal with this. Asked the different participants to make a formal taped statements. Only time I've ever done this. Formal depositions. And we all did. I still have a formal transcript. And I read that recently, and it was, I think I was not as angry as some people were. So what happened was those two coordinators were fired, which is somewhat unusual as far as being fired. And we had to completely redo that design of that system and dig a lot of it out and completely redo it because they had put it on the wrong side of the road. They put it up too shallow, so it broke in sandy areas, so forth and so on. It just wasn't designed well, and we had to completely redo it. So that was a heartache. So it got completely redone, and now it's still in place because of the way the long tom runs around and floods and the sand and such. There's usual breaks, and the water crew has to go back every spring. They start in the springtime and go and find out where those leaks are with wonderful plumbers and with such, and find them and start digging in the ground and replacing pipe and fixing, so then they can have a pressurized and then sanitized and have a working system for the fair. And it's wonderful. It's been working for 23 years now since we put that system in. I think it was 23 years. And so I can give a lot of kudos to the people that now work on water crew, including the family. And that's so 46 years later, it's still going on. And I love the fair. Makes me happy. It's creative. There's family in many ways, all kinds of family. I see people that, new people and people that make me happy, old friends over the years. A man that I saw today I haven't seen for a few years, Gil Dunaway, who's this incredible, well, he's a candle maker, he's an incredible drummer. He helped find he helped create Eugene Saturday Market in 1969. Amazing man. I got to see him play today. It's just little joys like that. Just make it wonderful. Watching the children play, watch them grow up, watch them then become part of the fair and work on the fair and put their energy into the fair. Watch the joy. There's nothing like it. These incredible creative people, all of the artists and musicians, the music and the vaudeville, people come from all over the world to come here, and people from all over the world know about the fair. We never imagined it would last 5 years, let alone 10, let alone 15, 20. It's just absolutely amazing that we'd be here. And my mom helped start it. It's just precious. It's unique. Yeah, it's something. That it stay nonprofit, that it stays for the future generations that will come up and enjoy it. Good question. I see it growing, but I would like to see it growing with new artisans coming in, encouraging development of the spoken word, the rabbit hole, bringing in intelligent conversation, knowledge and learning and such. There's always a piece about population control and such, and yes, somehow we need to respect the land on that. Land can take a lot, as every winter we get to see, as the lawn tom takes control again. And as we look at the surrounding community and recognize that it's a solid community that isn't necessarily the fair community. Fern Ridge, Veneta, Elmira is still working man, used to be logging town, kind of salt of the earth community, and we need to respect that part too and appreciate that. Integrate, enjoy it. So I can see that we need to continue to be part and parcel of that. Not separate, not above, not below. So, and just meeting people for the first time that I did that had were brand new fair people that had come from out of state with their eyes just going, this is just wonderful, and you have made my day because I've met you, and you have enlightened and enjoyed, and thank you so very much for just bringing me to the entrance to enjoy this fair. So the future will continue. Good management, fair management. Humble, humility, integrity, honesty.